Hello WBE fans, my name is JaCub as always, and welcome to week number 6 of the Shield Division weekly recaps for WBE season number 3. So basically it's just going to be me again in the beginning part of the video, and then Dr. Slaking will come in later. Like it's been like the last 3 weeks or so for the most part. Unfortunately, that's just how it's got to be until week 8. Once week 8 happens, we will be together doing this all the time. From week 8 until week 13, we'll be doing the recaps together. I guarantee you, and I promise that. But anyway, without further ado, let's get started with the game of the week this week. Originally, it was going to be Gator versus Leo, but I decided, and Dr. Slaking decided too, that it would be Tup versus Under the Radar actually. And this is a game I had recently just saw today. This is going to get out probably late Thursday night or early Friday morning as per the norm. Like I said, it'll get going soon. It'll get up earlier and on time in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, let's get started with this. Basically, it was Old Man Tup, coach of the Pittsburgh Rotoms, versus the Maryland Terrapins, coached by Under the Radar. Now, this was a really fun game. It came down to the wire. So, Tup brought a pretty standard Tup team, just Dragon Dance and Zardex, Scarf Mismatch. Like, he brought standard stuff that you'd expect. Kelly brought a coil team, essentially. He brought double Coilmons and Zygarde 50 and Superior with Draconium Z. And then he brought, like, Air Balloon, Stack Attacka, and a lot of fun sets, actually. Scarf Darm, because it's like the best Darm set if you just click buttons and watch stuff die. But anyway, I really thought Kelly played super well, and he like basically has to prep and play super well every single week because of the team that he has. He recently, I think he traded for Stack Attacka, I believe, unless somebody dropped it and then he picked it up. I think he traded with Galactic Elliott for it, and that was a superb pickup because Stack Attacka is a Pokemon that I've seen Kelly use from time to time, and he uses it very well. In this game especially, he brought an Air Balloon set to check Zardex because at +1 he could live any hit from Zardex, I believe, except for Brick Break, I believe it was, or some. I think that's Zardex's most powerful fighting move that's like viable. Like Focus Punch doesn't really count because that takes a lot of prediction and stuff to use Focus Punch with Zardex. But anyway, he really brought an interesting Stack Attack and an interesting team in general. A lot of Fizdefmons, which makes sense. Then he brought like Special Defensive Arbok, which made sense too, this matchup. But he really preserved Stack Attacka super well, and his Darmanitan too, because he realized I need to keep Stack Attacka in the back to set up Trick Room in order to beat Zardex, and that'll be that. So, because I think there was a time where he could have killed Rotom Wash, but that would have allowed Zardex to just set up, and he knew he wasn't in position to just let Zardex set up and potentially win the game depending on how it's going. So he carefully and methodically switched out Darmanitan instead of killing Rotom Wash and going into, I believe it was Sableye, Mega Sableye. This was like mid to late game, I believe. Not mid, it was like mid game, not like super late game, but anyway, that was just a really good play. Tup played pretty well too. Like he brought pretty good sets. His Musharna especially was really nice against Kelly because Musharna didn't take like anything from foul play. It was just so bulky and can set up Calm Minds on the Mega Sableye, which is incredible. And then just hit it with a Dazzling Gleam, and like Psyshock was super good. And like it chewed a +3 Dragonium Z from Superior, so I thought that was really neat. But there was just a lot of things. Like Tup brought the Scarf Mismay because Kelly brought Scarf Darm a lot. It's also a nice revenge killer for like Superior and +1 Zygarde. Like there's a lot of things that made sense that Tup brought. But I really like the dual dancing Zygarde. I wish Kelly would have been able to use that more. But he did what he needed to do, so he won the game. Not bringing an HP Ice on Roserade, kind of. I understand why he wanted HP Ground, probably for Darmanitan and stuff, but if Darm's Scarfed, he's outspeeding you anyway. So I guess like if you're trying to win with Roserade, run HP Ice so you can smack the Zygarde and just try to kill Darmanitan. Like the whole thing should have been killing Darmanitan first, maybe bring like physically defensive Rotom, and then trying to go for game late with Roserade rather than too early, if that makes sense. But there's a lot of things that could have went incorrectly for that to win the game. But I mean, Tup brought a pretty reasonable team, and Kelly brought a really good team, and Kelly is 5-1, and that'll be that. So anyway, the next game I want to talk about is the potential other game of the week that I was talking about, at least from my perspective, was Leo versus Gator. Both coaches brought really fun teams. Basically, Leo had preserved his Rainiclus for most of the game, and Gator was really not freaking out. He was really worried about what type of Rainiclus is it. Is it Acid Armor? Is it Dual Dance with Acid Armor and Calm Mind? Is it Calm Mind 2 attacks with Recover? It turned out to be Trick Room, Recover, Trick Room. Let me go check let me check this really quick because I honestly can't remember for my life. I need to check what this was because I want to tell you guys what this all was. So that's not it. Here it is. The Rainiclus was HP Ground, Recover, Trick Room, and Psychic, which makes a lot of sense versus Gator's team and everything. HP Ground for the Heatran because it needed to bop the Tran, and Psychic hit everything else pretty much, except for the Celebi, but he brought other mons to deal with Celebi, so it made sense. But overall, it was just a back and forth game, and the reason why I thought it was game of the week or one of the games of the week, is because the mind games at the end, Leo very smartly and competently preserved the Rainiclus in the back because it was a potential win con, and just knowing that he knew how he needed to play this entire game to win. I don't know. He brought Savali Ghost, which was clever too. Because he needed I think because his team didn't, honestly, besides Steelix, his team didn't really appreciate Bouffalon very much. Bouffalon kind of went in a little bit. So Savali Ghost makes sense. Adamant Lop is standard, just makes sense to bop stuff. Sub and Encore was really cool. So in case he started setting up, Encore is really nice for that. Overall, it just made a whole lot of sense. I think Gator's prep made a lot of sense too. I like the Watarium Z Manaphy. Gator, I find it funny. Gator just brings a lot of standard sets. It's really funny. Just brings Bulk Up, 3 attacks, Zimu's Aurora, just max Spit F, Heatran, max attack Donphan with it's just funny. He just brings a lot of similar things he's been bringing a lot of the year. But it makes sense. If it works for you, just bring the sets. Just do what you got to do. And I'm sorry if this is a little rubbish, this entire commentary. I just need to get this done. And it's just, life's been crazy. And it'll calm down. And I'll have a lot more time to really go into this in depth that I want to. Not super long episodes, but you know what I mean? Just super in depth. Know exactly what I'm talking about when I want to talk about it. Because I watched some of these games a couple days ago, and they're not really in my head, and I didn't really get a chance to take notes on them, so I do apologize in advance if I sound a little bit rubbish talking about this. But anyway, that's Gator versus Leo. I believe Gator won. Was it a 4-0 victory? No, I don't think it was a 4-0 victory. Yeah, no, I know it was a 3-0 victory, but it's still a very good game. Well played on both behalves. But the next game I want to talk about is my boy, the Uzi Gunner. So I'm really happy that he is in the league. I've known him for a very long time, and he is a very skilled player in Draft League. He really knows his craft. But he's played Uzi Gunner coach, or the Bullet Punch Club, coached by the Uzi Gunner, facing Patty Trails, coach of the Sin City Scissors, tongue twister, I know. But this was it really shows the gap between a really experienced Draft League player and kind of an inexperienced one. Patty has been really impressing me this entire season, don't get me wrong, but Uzi is he is really good at Draft League, and I really I've been watching him for years and years. I mean, Patty just I don't know. He brought Sub Calm Mind at Mega Alakazam again. Well, that's a good set. A lot of weeks. I think switching up sets would help out a lot, because I know he's brought Life Orb Druddigon 2 or 3 times this season, give or take. And just try to switch it up as much as you can and just see what happens. I know not everyone gets a chance to build all the time, and I know everyone can't go as in depth in team building and stuff all the time. But just food for thought. But Uzi brought a really good team. He brought Sub, Roost, Kiram, which really could stall out the Ferrothorn's Gyro Balls, and then basically he sits behind a sub for free, and there's nothing the Ferrothorn can do about it, and then he just sits there and clicks buttons versus Patty's entire team, because there's not much that Patty can do to that. And then I believe he brought like a really Spadef Mega Aerodactyl because it helped deal with Mega Alakazam quite well, and he didn't need like any speed into it because he was trying to be really bulky, and it just made a whole lot of sense. Like his entire team, the only thing he didn't do was creep the Lando T, but other than that, like the set on Aerodactyl made perfect sense. Did Lando T not even come again? Lando T did come this week. I was questioning. I was like, I don't remember if Lando T came. That was pretty crazy. But then Uzi brought like some Magikarp Uxie and just like kept rocks off his side of the field, made sure he gets rocks. He just was in control for the vast majority of this game, and I'm not too surprised. That's why I picked him in the pick'ems and stuff. I think he was my lock of the week, honestly, last week, but it just makes sense. Uzi played really well. Patty just needs to switch up some of his sets sometimes, not bring a lot of the same sets. But I think if Patty does that, he will definitely be in playoffs come playoff time. And Uzi, like, he might be 1-5 right now, but honestly, he's got just as good of a chance as some of these other 2-4, 3-3 teams as making playoffs, even if he's 1-5 right now. He's very good, and I don't want to be biased. I'm trying to stay neutral on everything, but it's hard for me to be neutral when you know the skill level of a certain individual and certain players and all that stuff. So it's just difficult. But anyway, yeah, it was a really fun game. Uzi basically played to perfection, played his game plan to perfection, followed it to a T, and figured out how he wanted to win the game and stuck to it. So very good game, really good start for the Uzi Gunner, and Patty Shields will come back strong next week. I know that. So let's move on to the fourth and final game that I will be discussing, and that will be between my boy Mewtwo fan Nate and the coach of the New York Noibets, taking on another good player in Galactic Elliott, coach of the Chicago Cudchoos. Now this was a really interesting game. Nate has brought setups. He was adamant. He's like, I want to win with Shell Smash Cloyster at some point this season, and he was determined and wanted to do that. By golly, did he do that this game? He set up with Shell Smash Cloyster and got it to work the way he needed it to work. Like, it worked out super well for him this game. I think Cloyster picked up like 4 kills, I believe, maybe even 5. Like Cloyster picked up a lot of kills, because it turned out to be a nice 4-0 victory in Nate's favor over Galactic Elliott. Like, it was late game and everything like that. So, I don't know. It's just like he came in to perfection, and he set up on the Chandelure with Memento after he mementoed his Dusknoir. Actually, I lied. It was a 3-0 win, because the reason I thought it was a 4-0 is because I remember on his layout that he didn't take Dusknoir off, but then I remembered that Dusknoir clicked Memento on the Chandelure so he could set up on the Cloyster. But yeah, I think it was he got like it wasn't a row for the Cloyster. Always lived that Shadow Ball from the Chandelure. But what I think Galactic Elliott didn't play his sack game right. What he should have done is he also should have ran Protect on Scolipede, I believe, this week, because then he could have chipped off the Cloyster, because I'm pretty sure a +1 Scolipede can easily be EV to knock out or can outspeed a +2 Cloyster, if memory serves correctly off the top of my head, because it would be at level 50, Cloyster is 134 speed max speed. That's if he's Jolly or Naive or something like that. So that would be 268 if you times that by 2. Scolipede is 180 speed, so times that by 1.5. That's 2 step. Yeah, so you can easily EV yourself to outspeed that if you run Jolly Scolipede and then knock it out. So I think that was probably the correct game plan for Elliott, but maybe he didn't think Shell Smash Cloyster would come or anything like that, because he didn't really have the best checks to it, though, so it made sense for why Nate did bring the Shell Smash Cloyster. So, but honestly, like, hey, it worked out pretty well. Honestly, it was a fun game to watch. Like, it was like kind of cat and mouse. Like, when is he gonna try to set up with the Cloyster and all that fun stuff? But yeah, makes a whole lot of sense to me. But anyway, that will do it for the weekly recap for the Shield division. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day. Make sure you check out all the analysts and the coaches in the description down below. And actually, it's not over. I need to send it over to my co-host, Dr. Slaking, for his half because I'm a bozo.
How's it going, my WBE people? Dr. Slaking, the Slacking Doctor, taking over from my wonderful co-host JaCub as always. I'm hoping he's already explained, and I'm sure he has already explained everything to you about why we're not recording together this week. Again, my apologies as ever for that. But rather than wasting any more of your time with any of that nonsense, I'm just going to jump straight into the first game that you can see here in front of us, as the San Diego Chargers and MV took on the Melbourne Rotoms, coached by Aaron Cybertron Zhang. Really interesting matchup here. I really felt like Cybertron had one of the best chances of the recent coaches going up against MV to win on matchup alone. I thought he had a pretty decent matchup, and I think MV commented on that himself in the video. But Cybertron decided to bring pretty much a full sort of Trick Room build here with Mega Slowbro, Conkelda, a Lola Whack, all being slow, bulky kind of ones to hit pretty hard. I believe Mammoth was a slow, bulky set as well, although I'm not 100% sure on that. But in general, it looked like it was kind of a full sort of Trick Room team to try and break through MV at team preview here. And I was really intrigued to see how it would do, because Alola Marowak, if you look at MV's team, it really does put in work, and it did manage to pick up 3 kills in this game. However, unfortunately, Cybertron wasn't able to get his Trick Room up until very late in the game. 3 Mons had already gone down before he was really able to execute his game plan with Slowbro, and even then when he did execute it, he was trapped in by the Azumarill. MV bringing the kind of classic Whirlpool Perish song, Protect, trapping Azu to shut down the Mega Slowbro completely. Which again was a really another good bring by MV. And in general, I think MV's build is fantastic. Things like Scarf Heracross, being able to beat the Conkelda 1v1, Rotom being able to wear down the Marowak with a good bit of team support, and then Victini with its speed tier against this very slow team from the Melbourne Rotoms, being able to pick up 3 kills as well. And as I say, by the time the Rotoms were even able to execute their game plan, they had already lost too much, I think. I think it was too little too late in a way. But Marowak picking up 3 kills showed what a danger that game plan could have been if executed a little bit earlier in the match. Regardless, the Sap Sipper Azumarill then came through later as it picked up another kill on the Kartana, eating the Leaf Blade being immune, and then firing off the HP Fire for the KO. Again, it was just fantastic prep by MV. You really I can't say that enough. You know, I can't take anything away from here. He prepped really well. Brought fantastic sets and was able to just completely neuter this Trick Room dangerous build that really could have caused him a lot of issues at team preview. So very impressed by the way MV handled this matchup. I was still impressed with Aaron's prep, and I feel like as the season goes on, you know, maybe if he brings Trick Room once or twice more, it might be something he pulls off a little bit better, because I don't think there was anything wrong with the build or the ideas. He just wasn't able to get his Slowbro in any earlier, and that might be attributed a little bit to how well MV pressured with his offensive mons to make sure that didn't happen, and there's something to be said for that too. So yeah, in general, a really entertaining game between two of the kind of, I guess, more experienced players in the WBE this season. 2 coaches with great records so far. Now, moving on, the second game that I have to cover was between Jodor and his Seattle Sea Kings, and Feint Attacks and his Atlanta Umbreons. Jodor did emerge the victor again, back-to-back wins for him now, I believe, after going 0 and an X for the first part of the season. He now has 2 wins on the bounce, which is fantastic to see. He played really well in this game, and I think some of the trades he's made to bring some bulk into his team have served him wonderfully. I remember in the first week him struggling a little bit on the bulky side maybe. But the core of things like Alomomola plus Avalugg and Mega Venusaur, wow, that's incredibly bulky and incredibly hard to break through, and it proved it in this game. Although he didn't bring completely passive sets, with Alomomola picking up 3 KOs in this game. You don't see that very often, but he brought a really creative Assault Vest Miracoat set. Oh, sorry, yeah, Miracoat, that's correct. Set, being able to pick up the kill on the Mega Gardevoir after a Hyper Voice, a Tornadus Incarnate, we'll get there eventually, after a Hurricane, and the Lantern after a T-Bolt. So, and that was without even having to switch out for regen. It picked all 3 of those up consecutively, if my memory serves me right. So, very dangerous set here from the Alomomola. But it was the early game Slurpuff that really deserves some credit, because here on your screen you can see it gets 0 KOs and 1 death, but really it put in so much work early game, as he calm minded up and then got the Unburden with the Citrus Berry. I feel like Belly Drum Unburden Slurpuff is more regularly seen, but the Calm Mind set can be a threat too, and with Dazzling Gleam plus Flamethrower, he was able to hit all of Feint Attack's team with that set, chipping down the Fortress, bringing it down to Sturdy, then hitting the Lantern on the switch with a Dazzling Gleam, and then hitting the Mega Gardevoir with the Dazzling Gleam after. I do think both players made some misplays in this portion of the game that made it a little bit more difficult for both of them. For example, I think that FaZe had to really just sack his Fortress to the Dazzling Gleam rather than going hard into Lantern on the Dazzling Gleam and taking an extra 60% on Lantern that he didn't need to do. And then when he pivoted back into Mega Gardevoir, I think had Jodor just attacked with the Dazzling Gleam instead of going for the extra Calm Mind, he would have two-shot the Mega Gardevoir and picked up a KO for his troubles. So yeah, definitely some misplays in that little portion of the game, but in general it was just a really well planned and thought through set that was executed very, very well, and definitely applied the offensive pressure in that early game to the Atlanta Umbreons. After that, as I say, the Alomomola was really the MVP, picking up 3 kills. Scarf Infernape was able to revenge kill the Belly Drum Salakberry sub Komodo. This is a fairly common set on the ladder, although I know it caught Jodor off guard. If you watch like OU and things like that, you'll see it quite a little bit there. But with the Belly Drum and the sub and the Salakberry, basically you get the +6 attack and the +1 speed, kind of like a unbelievably good Dragon Dance, right? And you're able to blow through your opponent's team. However, with only +1 speed, it was never going to do too much with the Scarf Infernape, always able to revenge kill it well, so long as the Komodo wasn't behind a sub. I do think the Komodo was mis-EV'd from my memory because its Salakberry did not pop on the Belly Drum plus substitute like it should have done. It actually came later in the game after it took some more chip, so that was perhaps a slight error there in the team building process, but you know, that happens for sure. And like I said, I don't think it mattered too much because Scarf Ape always revenge killed as long as the Mega Venusaur was able to break the Komodo sub, which it was comfortably. So in general, good set by FaZe, nice bring here, but unfortunately the Seattle Sea Kings did have the correct checks to it. Moving on from that, I should say actually as a final thing, Avalugg did pick up the final KO. You don't see too many games where Avalugg and Alomomola take 4 kills between them, but Avalugg did pick up the final KO on the Flygon, being able to just wall that thing and avalanche it. So the end game was pretty comfortable for Jodor once Alomomola had just ripped through the Atlanta Umbreons. So moving on to our final game here. Perhaps the most straightforward of all of the games I have to cover, as we are going to talk about Game Boy Luke and his Bristol City Blazekins versus Kyle A and his Miami Dolphins. And the reason that I say this game is potentially the most straightforward is you can see that Necrozma picks up 4 KOs, and if you look at Kyle A's team, there is not a single Psychic resist there. The Cresselia being left on the bench this week. I can't remember off the top of my head what the Miami Dolphins Dark type is, but I'm assuming they have one, and if they don't, that's fair enough. But that also was left on the bench if they do have one. But certainly Cresselia would have been able to come in on this Necrozma and potentially Calm Mind up on it or fire out Toxics. I know that's something that Luke was kind of fearing, he said in the prep stage, being choice specs on Necrozma, meaning he would have been locked into the Photon Geyser or any other coverage moves that he clicked. However, in a game like this, at Team Preview, if you know you have Specs Necrozma, it is just going to rip through your opponent's team. Unfortunately, Kyle wasn't able to really get his speed control off as well as he wanted, as Game Boy Luke played really, really well around the lead Torkoal, roosting up in front of the Torkoal with his Aerodactyl to just stall out Sun Turns, rather than just going for damage or anything like that with a burnt Aerodactyl. He made sure Torkoal didn't get Rocks Up, he then got his own Rocks Up, and then he proceeded to just stall out Sun so that the Victory Bell couldn't come in under Sun and be super fast. The Pelipper was always threatened by the Power Gem that Necrozma was firing off. And it just basically meant that Kyle was in a really, really tough spot in terms of getting his weather up to get things to outspeed the Necrozma, and essentially just had to continue sacking mons to it to get some damage off. And then the Primarina picked up the final 2 KOs of the game, being able to take hits easily from Kingdra and Moonblast it, and then I believe also finishing off the Pelipper too. Like I said, in general, this one just really felt like it was decided at Team Preview in some senses. I think the only thing that Kyle maybe could have done better was abuse his weather a little bit more. I think weather teams often have very exploitable weaknesses. They're often consisting of teams sharing a lot of typings, a lot of weaknesses, and lacking certain resistances, as this one did. So I think when you have that kind of a weather team, you have to apply offensive pressure very, very early, because the way that you kind of beat your opponent is by constantly bombarding them with attacks and beating them before they beat you, essentially. I don't think this team was built with a ton of defensive win cons. It was all about overwhelming offense, and unfortunately he just wasn't able to do that this week. We all have those matchups, we all have those tough weeks, and this was definitely one for the Miami Dolphins. Goodness, I can't talk today. I do want to add that today is the hottest day ever in July in the UK, and I am struggling in this heat, I'm not going to lie to you. Very much so, I feel like my brain is melted. But regardless, we had 3 fantastic games to cover this week. I hope you enjoyed them. I certainly enjoyed watching them, they were all fantastic. And I hope you enjoyed JaCub's coverage as well, I'm sure you did. Regardless, thank you so much for loafing around with us, guys, and we'll catch you again next week.